Hello, and welcome to Replay Value. This is Quicktakes, a series of rapid-fire shorter analyses focused on one theme or topic. For the inaugural episode, we're returning to Fate Zero's pilot, and that's all the explanation that gets. 3, 2, 1. Kiritsugu's introduction is all about hands. The first shot of the show, minus some title cards, is also our first shot of the character. This dark room with light descending from the ceiling features him covering his command seals. A fact that becomes more apparent as it's announced that Ilya has been born, and we zoom in on his hands, tightening. The transition from that shot match cuts perfectly to Iryasvil in her bed, which hints to the viewer that whatever has him upset has something to do with her. This shot is also perfectly symmetrical except for Kiritsugu, capturing his feelings of not belonging there at this moment. He's not even parallel within that window frame. Kiritsugu's first words to Irie make clear his viewpoint on his command seals. They're the physical embodiment of what is going to kill her, as they make him a master in the Holy Grail War, which she cannot survive. The first time we see his seals is when he declares that he has no right to hold his child, being responsible for the death of her mother. But it isn't him being told that his fight will come to an end or that Irie's death is inevitable that gets him to look towards his daughter. It's the combination of his ideals becoming reality and the duty of fatherhood that causes him to turn and take his daughter from Irie's hands into his own. Waver's introduction uses scale. There's the obvious conflict that's created between Kaneth and Waver thematically, and the lecture room creates this raised importance of Kaneth since he stands at the center of attention compared to Waver, who's just another face in the crowd. The use of lighting here, creating contrasting gradients between shots and constructing natural thirds breaks to direct the eyes is really spectacular. But the sense of scale really comes into play once Waver leaves the room, a small figure against these imposing arched windows. Waver's a small fish in the pond at the clock tower, someone who's attempting to resist the established norms of this ancient institution, and this shot captures that scale really well. The following shot, close up to Waver, is more in line with how he views himself, a big shot genius. Of course, that self-importance and self-centeredness causes him to crash into a cart moments later, as much of a surprise for the audience who couldn't see it, as it was for Waver, who was too much in his own head to notice that he had to get out of the way. There's also this great lighting transition where the windows were previously too bright to see out of, but now the clouds have come in and thunder strikes. And there's this great line where the Holy Grail War is described as just some magic tournament, which provides a sense of the scale to the conflict we'll be watching as well. Everything foreshadows the conflict between Kiritsugu and Kirei. The setups for this comparison scene are identical. Teams of two getting research and info on their opponents and discussing the state of the Holy Grail War as they understand it to this point. And there's tons of similarity between those two characters. Hell, Kiritsugu even has this half-beat where after Irie names him the fourth master, he still says that Kirei is the fourth master, implying their similarity before we even get into the depths of their parallels. But that's it. The settings are basically opposites, a basement cave lit by candles versus a skylit office space. Kiritsugu is using a printer while Kirei and Tokiomi have some magic pen scribe. But the shot selection is what really makes this foreshadowing so powerful. The track to pan establishing this contrast in direction, the constant use of empty space. Kirei and Kiritsugu are never in the same location. They're always on opposite sides. And even the lighting used conveys this contrast. The warm reddish-orange candle for Kirei versus the slightly harsher blue light on Kiritsugu. Their conflict is inevitable, even beyond the obvious battle royale reason, because their ideals, or lack thereof as the case may seem, make them ideologically opposed, even as they wonder what reason the other has for fighting. Everything that points to them being the same also points to their differences and makes their future meeting rise in anticipation. The multi-level structure is critical. The exposition is broken into chunks across multiple character introductions and points in the timeline, in addition to almost always being done in a way that feels natural, which keeps the pacing and flow of information solid. The timeline of the character introductions is also structured in a thoughtful way. First we have Kiritsugu, followed by Kirei and Tokiomi, which in turn is followed by Kariya. Kiritsugu and Kirei are primary foils, and Tokiomi and Kariya are set up as a point of conflict as well. In these three introductions, we also introduce the representative for each of the three families, which happens before Waver's introduction where he gets into the history of the Holy Grail War, which mentions the three families by name. And Waver's introduction also introduces one of his ideological conflicts in the form of Kaneth. I've already spoken about the Kiritsugu and Kirei comparison sequence, but another great comparison comes from Karya and Waver's reactions to getting their command seals. The lighting and facial reactions honestly tell the whole story. The time jump nature of the introductions creates this grand scale to the story. This conflict setup took the better part of a decade, and the final shot of how much time is remaining, about 11 days, provides a ticking clock in the background, building towards a final confrontation that we can expect, but cannot know at this point. And finally, the omission of Ryunosuke and Castor serves the double purpose of creating a sense of mystery and maintaining these three interpersonal/ideological conflicts between the 6 characters introduced. A loner with no bone to pick would only ruin this delicately structured opening. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and comment with your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and follow me on Twitter for my live analyses and future projects. Link in the description. We'll be back real soon with another video, but until then, thanks for watching.